Welcome into a special edition of Locked On Seminoles. I'm just going to be doing some picks for today, besides the Florida State game against Cal, which airs tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. I have that podcast up on Friday. You can check it out here on Locked On Seminoles. Just going to pick some other games from today around college football, have a little bit of fun. Just about 5-10 minutes talking some ball. College football obviously kind of gets going this weekend with more key matchups, a few more conference matchups that probably matter than the last couple of weeks. So with that, here we go. This is just a few things off the top, and then I'll read off some other games that I have on another tab. But the first game that I think is really interesting because it will, shall we say, dictate some of the pace in the ACC is Clemson and North Carolina State. And this is twofold. Number one, Cade Klubnik. Who is he? I remember seeing him in high school for the Elite 11, how accurate he was, how good of a kid he was. Like, he's the kind of guy you want to be around. He was a leader. He was clutch at Westlake High School in Austin, Texas. Goes to Clemson, ends up being a starter. And quite honestly, he's just not lived up to the billing since. He's been everything but clutch. He's been non-clutch. But NC State's defense, it's not the greatest, especially after getting absolutely bashed by Tennessee. And I get it that Nico Iamaleava is a special talent, but their guys is wide open. They didn't look prepared, mentally not focused. Communication was poor. But now they're going against Klubnik. This is kind of like the opposite of the rock and the immovable object. It's two things going in opposite direction. Like, it's bad on bad sometimes. But Klubnik can be good also in certain situations. Who shows up today? It's a little bit of a pride game. Clemson is favored heavily in this one, if I remember right, double digits. But the X factor is one that I'm going to be rooting for. Another kid that I know pretty well from the high school ranks is CJ Bailey. I believe he's starting. I believe that he completes the game when I see it, regardless of how much he plays. I never trust what coaches say in regards to quarterbacks and injuries or any players or position changes, quarterback changes, etc. But Bailey's supposed to play. Freshman quarterbacks generally don't do well. Going up against the Clemson defense that is underwhelmed this year, I think they're 90th in rush defense. Part of that's because they played against Georgia, but part of it is they're just not as deep as they used to be. NC State's got a couple good running backs. Can they rely on that to get CJ an opportunity to hit play action shots? For those of you who don't know CJ, tall kid, 6'6" or so, has an absolute howitzer for an arm. Deep ball is not an issue. But he needs clear, set pass to throw the football. He's not going to be doing full field reads. He's not going to be doing a lot of post-snap reads where he expects the receiver to, okay, they changed defense. My receiver's also going to adjust. He's not doing that NFL stuff. They're going to be really basic. So the only chance they have to win is to be able to run the football. I don't like that very much. CJ's a good guy. I know him, and I hope that he has all the success in the world, but today's probably not the day. I don't think Klubnik will be great necessarily either, but they'll get the dub. I got Clemson 34-17 over NC State. I expect Bailey to have at least one colossal mistake. That's typical of a young quarterback. Clemson's defense, especially Jaden Lucas, Avian Terrell, that's not a fun combination to go against early in your career. But the good news for NC State and their fans, Noah Rogers, Casey Concepcion, etc., they got some young receivers that are very, very talented. Maybe he can start to build some rapport. I don't know, but again, I've got the Tigers coming out on top of the Wolfpack, 34-17. In another game that I think is just really interesting because it's not only going to set the tone for this year, but long-term, much like the Clemson-NC State game, Southern Cal goes to the Big House to play Michigan. This game could go a million ways. Another game where they're allegedly making a quarterback change, Alex Orji, who I saw, the same Elite 11, ironically, that I saw, the same quarterback I talked about in the last little bit, and that would be Cade Klubnik. They were at the Dallas Regional a few years ago for the Elite 11. When I walked up, I said, like, who is that kid? Like, he just looked the part, but he just wasn't accurate at all. There was nobody there that was impressed with him as a pure passer, and I'm being kind. He's got an arm, but he just wasn't a quarterback in my eyes. I think he should be an H-back slash big receiver slash flex tight end. That's what I think. But allegedly, Michigan is going to play Orji today. Good luck to you on that. You've got some really good running backs. You've got an offensive line that can go. I know they're a little banged up at some spots. There's an O-lineman that's banged up. There's a receiver that's banged up, etc. But they still have some talented receivers too, Samaj and some other guys. Can Orji hit them? Can he read the defense to make the play? USC has a new defensive coordinator that's good. I'm shocked that I'm saying that because I am 100% out on anything with USC as long as a certain head coach is there, because I just don't think he runs his practices as the way that you need to at the college level to win championships. They don't hit enough, in short. But that being stated, he knows offense, and Notre Moss does not suck. They've got a lot of weapons. They've got a really good running back that I don't think enough people know about. Woody Marks, a kid that I met a few years ago. He's from Atlanta. He is a horse. He's the guy that also had the touchdown late in the game against the LSU Tigers. Power guy. They've got a couple other young running backs. USC will run the ball. Michigan, obviously very talented on defense. I just think they'll be on the field too much. Second half, look at the differential after the game is over. Take a look at the differential in yardage. This will be the true tale of the football game. I think USC will outgain them at least 3-2, if not 2-1 in the second half. I don't think they'll put up huge numbers overall. They'll gain maybe 350, 370 in the game. Michigan's defense is good. I know they had some issues against Texas, but they'll rebound to a certain degree. I just don't think they're going to get enough first downs through the air to just run the ball and pass 10 to 15 times. That's not going to work against Southern Cal. That's my opinion. I could be wrong. I have the Trojans coming out on top, 31-20. Another key stat here, by the way, Mullings, the running back for Michigan's averaging 7.5 yards a carry. Look for that to go down significantly. One of the games that I don't think would be all that close, but it's an interesting one to me because how they're up and down. Notre Dame, they lose to Northern Illinois. They go to Purdue, win 66-7. They've got Miami of Ohio at home today. This is a game they should score 70 points. Miami of Ohio is dead last in the nation. Dead last in rushing the football. And Notre Dame's front's good anyway. You should all but pitch a shutout. Will they be mentally focused? This is another projection kind of thing. Is Marcus Freeman the guy at Notre Dame? I don't know. But if they have another flat game, win or lose, this is a bad sign. They must show dominance from play one through the end of the game. How do you do that? Mental focus. I don't think very much of what they've done so far in terms of being able to be consistent week to week through his first 2+ years at Notre Dame. They have too many highs and too many lows. Maybe he's just not ready to be an elite head coach at a program like Notre Dame. Not many are, but there's too much of that. I need to see Notre Dame be consistent. They got a lot of talent on defense, and they're extremely experienced, like insanely experienced. There's no reason for them not to dominate this game. They really won't have to show much offensively because, like, they can't run the ball. They can't stop the run of Miami of Ohio either. I've got Notre Dame 51-7, but if that game is even remotely close after the first quarter, it's a red flag for Irish fans. Next, this is one of my favorite games of the year. Utah, Oklahoma State. This is one I had circled before the season started, and it's just fun. The Big 12 welcomes Utah in. Oklahoma State is tradition in that conference as being kind of the upstart that will knock off somebody. They don't get over the top and win the league per se, but they cause somebody problems. Well, they've got a good quarterback. Gundy's obviously an excellent play caller. I got Ollie Gordon. But do they have the defense? They are atrocious. Not bad. Atrocious at stopping the pass. And here's the weird part. Like I mentioned a minute ago with Notre Dame, Oklahoma State on defense experienced. They have like 20 starters back overall. So, I mean, both sides of the ball are very experienced. Then why are you giving up 305.3 yards per game passing? That is pathetic. And I assume, here we go with the quarterback thing again. I assume Cam Rising is playing. I don't believe anything that coaches say when it comes to injuries. They gain nothing. So they're going to do three things. As I always say on Locked On Seminoles, lie, and lie. If he plays, great. If he doesn't, that may be better. Who knows? Because I don't know if he's healthy. But if Cam Rising plays, and this, if I knew for 1% chance that he wasn't playing, I wouldn't even talk about this game because who knows what happens when you get backup quarterbacks in. I leave that kind of stuff alone. But assuming Rising plays, I think he will make enough of a difference to give them the victory. He just doesn't make a ton of colossal mistakes, and he has been pretty clutch throughout his career. Remember a couple of years ago, he had a couple key plays against USC in not one, but 2 games to help the Utes beat, quite honestly, a more talented Southern California team. He has a little bit of an it factor. Prove me wrong. I'll take Utah on this one because really, I just don't understand why Oklahoma State, they're not bad on pass defense. Again, they're bad. 305.3 yards per game. I believe that's 124th out of 134 teams at the Division I level. There's no excuse really for Utah to ever be in that position, but as the saying goes, it is what it is, and college football has a lot of weird trends, and it's what makes the sport great, but it also makes you scratch your head. As for some other games, this is, again, a very broad week. I don't know how much action you're going to be watching in terms of any specific teams or whatever, but these are a few of the games that I'm curious about. I mentioned a moment ago Notre Dame having a quote-unquote strong start and consistency playing Miami of Ohio. Well, a similar deal today with Ohio State. They host Marshall. Marshall is not the same team that it has been, and what I mean by that is they lost a couple years ago. They upset Notre Dame. They lost some of those key players from those teams that were really good on defense. They've lost key coaches from those teams on defense. They're both at Miami, the DB coach and the defense coordinator. This should be a game where Ohio State still scores a lot. They're favored by 39.5. Jeremiah Smith, not that I'm the only one on this, I think he will go off today. I think he'll have a chance to push 200 yards. I think he'll have at least one, if not 2, long runs after the catch. And I think Marshall is in a lot of trouble. They're favored by 39.5, by the way. I don't know if they'll cover that, but I got Ohio State big in this one. I'm going to say like 45-10, something in that range. Let's see how good Will Howard can throw the ball if he plays a ton. They may not play him the whole game. And if they can be consistent, run pass, because they should be able to dictate to Marshall, right? You would think. Also, the game that is just bad on bad, and I do mean bad on bad, at noon, Florida versus Mississippi State, Cowbell City up in the state of Mississippi. I don't like either team. They're both terrible, but Florida has more talent. If Florida does not win this game, they may not win 3 this year. They really might not. Mississippi State is from hunger. They stink. But it's on the road, and that's a really crazy place. Do the players buy in to Billy Napier at this point? I'm going to guess the majority say no. They're just kind of looking out for themselves. I look for a lot of bungling, and I got Mississippi State in an ugly 23-20 win over Florida. I think Florida should probably win this game by 2 touchdowns. They will find a way to fail because that's what Billy Napier teams do. He's just not very good. Indiana will beat Charlotte, by the way. The job that's going on, the coaching at Indiana is very impressive. They're 3-0. They are the darling right now, in my opinion, in college football, and good for them. I think it's great to see somebody else kind of come along. North Carolina, they're starting their 3rd different quarterback this week. I have no idea what's going to happen. I wouldn't touch that game with the 10-foot pole on prediction. Think about that. They've played 3 games so far. This will be game 4. This will be their 3rd different quarterback. No idea what's going to happen in any game with them rest of this year. If I was a gambler, I wouldn't touch North Carolina with a 10-foot pole. One of the more surprising teams this year in a bad way has been Kansas. They're 1-2. I thought they'd be a little better. The coordinator going to Penn State, the OC, was he the key? West Virginia is another one of those crazy places to play, kind of like Mississippi State. Does it matter? I don't know, but I think Kansas will win. I don't think they're necessarily a great team, but I just think it's time. If I'm wrong, so be it, but I like Kansas in a close game. I've got them 31-28 over the Mountaineers. Next up, and this isn't necessarily what you would call an exciting game for some of you, but I know Rocco Becht. He's the quarterback at Iowa State. He had the great comeback against Iowa. Good for him. I think they're going to trounce Arkansas State. They should. They're favored by like 20 points. But I like them big. I like them 42-15 over Arkansas State. It'll be one of those wild games where Arkansas State goes for 2 and does all kinds of dumb things towards the end, but they're going to smash them. Next up, this is another fun game. If you want to look at it from a different perspective, you can. But I'm just going to be honest. I hope I'm wrong on this. I like it to see alums get to be the head coach at schools. But right now, UCLA's situation is just bad. It's going to be blazing hot in Baton Rouge. UCLA goes to LSU. Yeah, I think that could be a name your score kind of deal. I like LSU big in this one. I like them 49-10. I think it's going to be a smoke. They're favored by like 20 or something like that. But I think they're going to win massive. Look for Nussmeier to go up top. Look for LSU to be very balanced. Caden Durham and some of the young running backs at LSU will get a chance, but they're going to spread UCLA out with the field. Their offensive tackles are good. I think Nussmeier will have too much time to pass. He'll murder that team. A game that's a little bit underrated and should be an upset alert kind of thing, because if Louisville doesn't prepare properly, and I expect them to, but Georgia Tech goes to Louisville. This is a game where, if you really think about college football, this is the one at the end of the day, you're like, oh, wow, that happened. Georgia Tech snuck up on Florida State to start the season, which now isn't a surprise. Florida State's obviously very poor, but they're a power football team. This is who we are. We're going to do what we do. And they have a mobile quarterback. Louisville's defense is talented. You got Gelati, one of the best defensive ends in college football. And Louisville's favored by 10. But that's that sleepy mid-afternoon game. You just think you're going to kind of grind it out and win. But if you screw around at all, it could be very close. I'm not a gambler by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Tech, I would take the points if I was. They're 3-1. Louisville's 2-0. But again, it's at Louisville, tough place to play. But I think it'll be a closer game than many think. I got Louisville winning 27-21. It'll be a good game. And if Louisville has that, like that one extra goofy play where they have a muffed punt or some other play where they give a short field to Haynes King and Georgia Tech, they could lose straight up. Georgia Tech's a pretty well-coached team. Give Brent Key a lot of credit. He's a good football coach. And again, I like seeing teams that don't normally win a lot at least have a shot. That's kind of a interesting situation with all the different teams that are going up and down in college football year to year. Maybe that's the one that, quite honestly, ends up being the biggest surprise of the day, because I don't think there are a ton of games that I'm looking at that I'm like, this is super exciting, or, oh, this is going to end up being the game of the day, etc. So I'm just honest about it. Last game I'm going to pick, and this one, I may be too much on the Nico train, but I think Tennessee is going to bomb Oklahoma. Maybe I'm wrong again. I could be. I got Tennessee winning this game big. I've got them winning 38-20 over Oklahoma. I think the game will be close for most of it, but Tennessee's defense is good enough. I don't think Oklahoma's defensive depth, especially the experience part of it, because they got a lot of younger guys as Brent Venables builds that roster. It's going to take a while. And their schedule's tougher this year, way tougher. They won 10 games last year. They're not winning 10 games this year. They're going to get smoked. I think Tennessee will hit a couple of big plays in the passing game, but it will be the run game that will be key for Tennessee. Again, I got them winning 38-20. I just don't think Oklahoma is going to run with them laterally consistently. There won't be enough opportunities to slow down that offense. And Nico is a special talent. So with that, just wanted to have some picks, have some fun today. No big reason. Just wanted to have some fun with it. Everybody enjoy college football. And for those of you curious about Florida State's game, 7 o'clock tonight, ESPN2. I'm doing a live show at 9:30 towards the end of the game. And then, depending on how it goes, we'll see. But I look forward to seeing everybody's comments in the chat room. It's obviously not the most fun time to be a Florida State fan, but hey, come in and share your thoughts, whether you're an FSU fan, Michigan fan, whatever. Enjoy having you on here. Take care, and I will see you